Hey everybody, and welcome back to Doom Eternal. We are back at the Fortress of Doom here, which is your upgrade hub. And, right, you can't get this yet. You have to go get the Flame Belch first. So Flame Belch, this is the sort of free item they give you here after the first level, and this is literally a game changer. This is kind of the thing that makes Doom Eternal's game flow what it is compared to 2016, or one of the things. But it's a major addition. The means of constantly getting more armor. So you have, when you get these Sentinel crystals, you can put them towards upgrades. Whenever you get the two upgrades on either side of one of these things, you get the thing in the center. So I'm going to immediately start working toward the quick draw flame belch, because that is I think personally one of the best ones, because it allows you to use the flame belch more often, especially if you're on a challenging difficulty. Being able to use that more frequently, like you're going to be getting hit, right? You're going to take damage, you're going to lose your armor. So simply being able to fire that off more often means that you're going to get more refills on a more constant basis. Whereas if you get upgrades that increase your max armor or that sort of thing, that's great, but you still may well burn through that. And so if you're finding you're being challenged in the game, being able to use that on a more frequent basis is probably a better option for you. Do our little traversal here, but there is that one up, and that's not how you get that. It's actually a lot more simple. There you go. That's better. As I've kind of mentioned before, but I should mention again, like, this isn't going to be the most highly skilled ultra high level playthrough. Like, that's why I called this Nightmare for the Average Joe, because I'm a reasonably average player. Above average in the sense that I play on Nightmare, but way below average as far as like YouTubers and streamers who are playing these games at a really high skill level and trying to set records and do that kind of thing. This is only my second time through the game that I'm recording here, other than replaying a couple of levels a handful of times. And I'm not going for 100% completion. Just kind of taking it easy, because this, even though I'm recording this is my game time, this is my leisure time. So, you will watch me make some dumb mistakes and screw things up and play poorly and what have you, and hopefully those will just be times, instructive moments that I can talk about, what went wrong or why I did something dumb. And hopefully you can benefit from that. So we took out that group of enemies, and we're now introduced to the Hell Knight. So we get two introductions in this level. We started out with the gargoyles, the winged dudes that fly around and shoot at you from a distance. They're similar to imps in that they're quick on their feet, so they can blindside you if you're not aware of their position. They can kind of hit you from the side very easily. And they also, fire at range and do this little thing where they fly up in the air and fire 3 of these, green fireballs at you. And they can be quite a thorn in your side, especially on Nightmare. They're less of a worry. Most of the lower level enemies are a little bit less of a worry on the lower difficulties, just because you don't get quite as severe a penalty from getting tagged. Whereas on Nightmare, you really have to watch out for them. We picked up Blood Punch here. That was the big upgrade that we just got, so that's good. But what I'm most excited about here is air control. If you've noticed me doing some stupid things, jumping around a lot and doing dumb things like jumping off of a cliff or jumping directly into a fireball, the reason for that is I've been playing Ancient Gods. and am used to, you know, my full set of normal upgrades, and that's where my muscle memory is right now. So starting this game over for this video series is yeah, maybe not the best of ideas. I'm making some mistakes just by virtue of the fact that I'm expecting air control to be there and forgetting that it's not. So hopefully I'll stop doing some of that dumb stuff now. But I miss a toy. There's a breakable wall there that I forgot about. So whoopsie daisy. But if you're looking for secrets, there's one there. Yeah, and I definitely will do that a number of times in this playthrough. So just be aware. I'll try to mention them if I remember that I have missed something after the fact. But, you know, we'll see how that goes. Hell Knights. What is there to say about Hell Knights? They are a constant staple enemy in the game. They're big. They have a fair amount of HP compared to your average enemy. So they take a little while to bring down. But they're not too bad. Especially on their own, they're quite easy. And there's that gargoyle just went up for that that triple shot that he does. And damage will knock them out of that. That is a good thing to do. Those shots are not inconsiderable in their damage profile. But yeah, Hell Knights, they'll show up regularly, and they're more of an issue with when you've got multiple enemies, you know, lots of ads and stuff, because they're fast. So if you got things that are getting in your way or other targets that you're prioritizing, it can be a little more problematic. Whereas on their own, yeah, they're not really so much of a thing. So right here, I lose a life. That is terrible. This is an easy encounter, but I lost that life because I missed my opportunity for using a sticky bomb. Thankfully, did not miss my opportunity for that precision bolt to take out this guy's turret. But yeah, you really have to be careful with the Cackle Demons. They are they shoot very quickly. If they're relatively near you, they can kind of dash in and do high melee damage as well. So, you know, generally you kind of think of them as these big floating puffballs that are easy to avoid, but their projectiles are very fast, and when they get in close, they can kind of do a sudden burst of speed, which will put them on you very quickly. So they are actually a really dangerous enemy, particularly because, you know, you're just like, I can fire a sticky bomb and take this guy out, no problem. And so you stop worrying about it, you stop thinking about it, and then they surprise you. It's like, oh, snap, and then like that, you've lost a life in what should be a really easy encounter. So don't make the mistake that I made there. So there's just some story stuff up here, which we'll skip through. After this little traversal puzzle, I guess if you can call it that. Not a whole lot. I missed that jump, and that should have crushed me. And instead, there was like a little physics glitch, and it shot me up, which is great for me, because it made me look at least marginally less stupid. But yeah, that's I think that is generally supposed to kill you. Okay, so here is the like absolute game changer. Dash is the thing in this game. It is one of those defining features that makes Doom Eternal Doom Eternal. I will use it constantly. I suppose I should start talking about my keyboard layout at some point here, which I have neglected to do. It may not be the most helpful for your average player, because most people, I think, use a WASD setup for keyboard and mouse controls, and I don't. I use an ESDF because for a variety of reasons. I'm a writer. I write articles. I do freelance work. I write fiction, poetry. I do all kinds of writing all the time, and having my my fingers rest at the natural, normal spot on the keyboard is just a natural fit for me. It's where my hand always defaults. So, it doesn't make it like WASD is one off of where my hand naturally wants to rest. And it's also, if you look at it objectively, it's objectively worse because your fingers have fewer options at their disposal. Like, certainly you can do it. Don't take that as me like poo-pooing anybody who wants to use that. Like, that's fine. Go ahead, knock yourself out. That's great. But if you look at it from an efficiency point of view, on ESDF you have sort of the Q, W, A, and Z keys readily accessible. So that is why I find it to be a superior method. It allows for more access to more keys, in addition to just being a more natural resting place for your hand if you are used to that. So these are worth doing, these little secret encounters. I believe I mistakenly said in the first episode that you get rewards at the end of a level for like completion statistics, which I don't think is actually the case. I believe you do get them as you do them, however. So completing these encounters, you will see now I got a weapon point out of that, and they get progressively harder and you get progressively more out of them. So it is worth doing those. If you're the type of person who just kind of zips around and gets in fights, it is definitely worth doing that stuff and exploring around a little bit and doing the challenges. You'll accrue rewards over time as a result of doing them. So I should mention here, and glossing over the gameplay a little bit, that I have done this poorly, in the sense that I triggered the primary fight here. Like, if you look at the map, you can see that fights tend to have icons, the sort of like arena-based fights where you need to go through to progress. I have triggered that early, so I didn't deal with all of the enemies that were already here prior to spawning the more difficult ones. So I could have reduced a lot of these like trash mobs first before triggering the Kako Demon and the Hell Knight that come out, and I guess the Revenant as well. So that led to some stupid stuff like that, like just having all these extra guys around to cause me consternation. Ultimately it worked out fine, but that was a little silly, and you can avoid that mistake yourself by learning from my error here. So back to keyboard stuff, since we have a minute while I'm just doing environmental things. As I said, I use the ESDF for movement, and that gives me Q, W, and A at ready access, which I think is a huge benefit. So I do not use the numbers for the majority of my weapons. For some of them, because that's natural for me, having grown up playing Doom and Quake. I got used to doing some of that. So I have 2 as my regular shotgun here. I think I have 3 as the plasma rifle, 4 as the heavy machine gun, and 5 as the rocket launcher, because that's kind of a fairly standard setup. But anything past that, it gets increasingly more frustrating to hit quickly and accurately. So I use A for my super shotgun because that is something that I constantly switch to. And I think that's a very convenient key for that, given the meat hook and its increase in your mobility. That's awesome. And I use Z for my dash because it is a really easy key for me to hit repeatedly all the time without getting in the way of my movement keys. So I missed this one up here. This is a silly thing. You can just jump back off this platform back to grab that one up. So that's a silly thing that I passed by. Don't make that mistake if you're playing. It'll give you a slight boost. And I'm going to take the Heat Blast here, which I think is generally most people's favored mod for the plasma rifle.
There is a Sentinel power core nearby. You can use it.
If I'm being honest, I think people kind of give the microwave beam a bad rap. It's a perfectly reasonable weapon. And you will have to get used to that if you're going to play Ancient Gods, because there's an enemy that requires it in order to be defeated. So that's worth noting. I think people give that a bad rap. It's not such a bad mod. Although the Heat Blast is maybe more immediately useful and easier to use. Though it differs from 2016 in that it is a forward projectile, whereas in 2016 it was a 360 type thing, so you could run into a group of enemies, fire it off, and it would break, that whole group down. Whereas now, I believe it is 100% forward focused, and it has a couple different charge levels, so you can charge that up and do some serious damage with it without the hit to your mobility that the big hit to your mobility that the microwave beam takes. So we've done that little traversal bit here and kind of get into probably the big fight of this map. I guess there's two big ones, and this is kind of the big one. You can use Precision Bolt if you have it, which by this point you probably should, to take out a hard point or two on these enemies. You can get rid of the turret on that dude, or you could possibly take out the shoulder bits on this Revenant, although I took care of that with my sticky bombs. Lots of trash mobs here, so that's good for getting your armor back up to speed. The floor in many spaces in this arena is quite literally lava, so you do have to be careful where you land, although this is a highly mobile arena. There's lots of places to jump to get out of the way. There's this, a couple of jump pads. There's the monkey bars. All kinds of great things you can use to stay mobile. So make use of those. Stay off the ground. You're generally safer in the air than you are on the ground. Obviously, projectiles can still do their damage, but yeah, being mobile is always super useful in this game. I've mentioned this before, but we'll reiterate: make judicious use of your chainsaw. Don't be afraid to use it when you need to use it. No sense in constantly saving it up for the bigger enemies or what have you. That can be a nice way to remove a tougher enemy faster, but hey, you're going to be dumping lots of ammo into these guys anyway, and hopefully you can get them grouped up and you'll be doing damage to more than one thing at once when you're fighting them anyway. So there's no shame in just saving your chainsaw for those smaller enemies when you need to get an ammo boost, because especially before you've gotten much in the way of ammo upgrades, that's definitely a frequent occurrence. The blood punch came out there just as an expedient means of getting rid of that guy because my first hit did not stagger him. Blood Punch is something I generally save for either, a big bit of burst damage, like dealing with Arachnotron, or especially for knocking the armor off the Cyber Mancubi that will come later. But right now there's nothing that you're sort of really need to save it for. I do tend to save it more often for the Cyber Mancubi later on, but right now just kind of use it when you need it. You will note that I opted earlier to not take a glory kill on the Arachnotron, but instead just use my Heat Blast from the plasma rifle to get him out of the way quickly. There have been a few times when I have either intentionally or just accidentally failed to get a glory kill and killed a staggered enemy normally rather than taking the glory kill, and you get substantially less health from that. Substantially less, but sometimes it's to your advantage. I don't think it's as severe in Eternal as it was in 2016, but in 2016 you could frequently get yourself killed by poorly timed glory kills, and I think it's less of a problem in Eternal. But it's still, there still may be instances where you're like, lingering here is a bad idea. Doing this glory kill is going to be precious time where I'm going to get swarmed, and it might be to your advantage to just end something early, pop an enemy to knock them out and go from there. So I'm going to spend some of these weapon points that I've acquired. At this stage of the game, one of the things that I use most is still the sticky bombs. So that makes them a pretty surefire thing, but I also really love the precision bolt. So I feel like either of those are pretty solid choices, but I do use the precision bolt quite a lot, and having that be a little quicker and more readily accessible is a good thing. Once you do the mastery challenge, so once you've popped 75 headshots with precision bolt, then those headshots in the future will also cause a small explosion. So that's not something that I use like constantly, but it's worth having. So you can see here how much damage those gargoyles can do if you aren't paying like the closest attention. Given that I'm just kind of playing this thing pretty casually, really for fun. Like I was not giving those guys their due credit, and I really paid for it. Took a couple of big hits there. Gargoyles are very good at that, the same way that imps are, that if you're not paying the closest attention, they can be the difference between life and death. You do get the armor bonus for glory killing an enemy that is on fire with your flame belch. That's what I did there to that zombie. That's something that's worth noting. You can flame belch a staggered enemy and do a glory kill and get both armor and the health from the glory kill. So that's a pretty handy tip. You will generally get more armor if you attack a flame belch an enemy and attack it. Normally, I really screwed this up here. Failed the encounter. I did that exactly wrong because I forgot what this was. But yeah, you'll generally get more armor, like, hitting a healthy target with your flame belch and then just attacking it several times because you get more opportunity to attack it. But if you have someone that's staggered and you need an armor boost, it's definitely fine to pop that flame belch and get some armor in addition to the health from the glory kill. And now I thought I could go back and get this, but as it turns out, you just slide right off this pillar, which is a shame. Still might have been able to get it if I'd tried, but luckily I didn't die by falling into the lava, which would have been embarrassing. And there may be a way to get that, I don't know. But of course then I fall into it here, and I'm down basically to the same health I was before I picked up that health item. So really, really skillful play here. Just to, really impress the internet. So while we got some time, I guess I can talk about keyboard layout some more. I use W and G for my flame belch and my grenade. Those are nice nearby, one key over key presses, and since you should hopefully be using those on a virtually constant basis, it's great to have those in a handy spot where you can really get to them quickly. Make sure they're convenient for you, whatever your keyboard layout is. I know a lot of people will just end up using the default for a game. Personally, that is a thing that I never, ever, ever do. I highly recommend using your own keyboard layout, coming up with something that makes sense to you and getting used to it. I do that at the start of pretty much every game I play. But yeah, especially in this game, it's really important. Oh, tentacles. Anytime you see this purple goop, or any kind of goop, tentacles are a likely thing to look out for. So, always good to watch out for those. Thankfully, these guys are right here as fodder to get your staff back up, which is great. But this area is filled with this crud that makes it hard to move around, so getting out of that is always good. These areas are not like a constant thing, and you can still dash, but I believe your dash is hamstrung. It's probably a third or half, maybe, of what your normal dash is. So something to be aware of. Just know when you're in sludge that you are in sludge. There's a couple of hiding zombies that have kept this door closed. I just have to find them here. Mostly I feel like fodder enemies don't normally count toward your, your sort of what you need to kill in order to get past an area, but maybe early in the game that's different, I forget. So I do manage to take this Arachnotron's turret out, and then honestly I make a mistake by backing off here and going at distance. It would probably have made a lot more sense for me to switch to the plasma cannon and take this guy on at closer range. I make several mistakes and lose a whole bunch of health that I did not need to lose. It's just a very poor tactical choice here. And eventually I realize my mistake and just finish him off. But yeah, it's a little silly, a little wasteful. But of course, we've got our guys to boost our stack back up here, so, no harm, no foul. It's another little traversal puzzle coming up here. So I guess back to keyboard stuff. I use X, the X key, to swap my mods, which is a change I made from 2016, where I used to use, I believe it was R. I used to use R for mod switching because I did that a little more frequently, I feel like, in 2016, and you didn't need quite as many keys as you do in Eternal. I recently made a swap for this playthrough. Well, I think I actually did it when I was starting Ancient Gods, that I changed the T key to my weapon swap, like my hot swap button. There's a dedicated key for swapping between two weapons. So I set that to T, because that's an easy one for me to hit and is good for swapping between two weapons that you want to reduce the reload times on, because swapping gets rid of that reload animation. So I went for the other side of the quick draw belch, and I now have that unlocked, so I will be able to use the flames more often and get armor on a more regular basis. That is my recommended first choice, first upgrade choice. Certainly you are free to deviate from that for whatever you think is best, but that's the one that I think gives a lot of utility. That is one of my favorite glory kill animations because it's so silly. You just push the Arachnotron over from the back and he explodes. It's kind of an odd thing. So there is actually, I believe, a secret on the other side of this, like around the bend, that I just forgot about. So whoopsie daisy, and I failed that jump. Be aware that if you search around there, you might be able to find your way to that secret. If memory serves, it might be a super health, whatever you call them. So stupid me, I miss a couple of my sticky bombs there and to take both a bite and a plasma shot from the Caco Demon here. I didn't really need to take. Got to be on point with those. When you see those guys, get those sticky bombs out and hit them straight away. A little unnecessary hit there also by that gargoyle, but whatever. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Slayer Gate. That's what these giant keys are for. Hidden on most levels. I think everything past the first one. You find a key and there's a gate, and if you get the key and go into the gate, you get one of these challenges. These are really fun. They're a great time. They're usually pretty difficult, although the degree of difficulty varies. This first one isn't really too bad. And yeah, they're a lot of fun and a great chance to like test your skills and see what you've learned so far and kind of put that to the test. Not doing super great here, taking a lot of unnecessary hits because there are a lot of these trash mobs here. And you can see how long the armor drops from your flame belch persist. Like, you can kind of pop those off and come back a little while later and they will still be there. I don't know how long they stick around, but they stick around for a while. So after popping out of that teleporter, I was able to go back and retrieve them all. They don't, disappear in like 2 seconds. You'll also note how much damage I took there a minute ago from getting really just into the thick of it with a whole bunch of enemies. It's actually one of the things that you kind of have to worry about with trash mobs, especially, is they get in your way a lot. They really will block your ability to dash. So that's just kind of worth noting. We have a Dread Knight. That's a souped up version of a Hell Knight that has a blade, a couple blades attached to it. They do a lot of damage, and they're a lot worse than the regular Hell Knight because their like jump attack, their leap that they do does sort of a splash damage. I mean, the regular one does too, but this has like an energy thing. You can see it there, where he has jumped and leaves this red electricity stuff behind. And it does quite a lot of damage, as you can see. So, worth avoiding that. These guys are tough, and I lost a life there. That was just, I didn't know that guy was there. And he got me full on with his leap. Took me out straight away. Kind of unfortunate, because these guys are not really a problem on their own. much like the Hell Knight, the Dread Knight it's more of an HP sponge. It definitely has more health. It takes a little more effort to kill, and does more damage, but it's more of a problem in a group where you have other things you need to worry about. So don't forget to grab your key when you're done with this challenge. Those are used to unlock the Unmaker, one of your ultimate weapons at the end of the game. Which honestly, it's not really a big deal if you don't get it. It's essentially an alternative to the BFG.
The betrayer's life signal is nearby.
It's almost kind of a rapid fire BFG. It's not unuseful, but you know, whatever. You won't be using it, you know, constantly. It'll be one of those things you get occasionally. Grab an extra life here. Realistically, if I was actually playing well, I would probably have, I think, about 7 extra lives at this point, which you could conceivably do on a decent run. I've, you know, made some bad choices and definitely lost a few silly lives in the course of reacclimating to unupgraded Doom Eternal versus Ancient Gods. Skip all that story stuff here and just move on. I guess I could talk more about keyboard stuff while we're doing traversals here. I use Shift, the left Shift. I use for mods, so that is what I use every time I use my my precision bolt. That is one of the deciding factors. Many mods are kind of things you need to hold down, right? Like the lock-on burst for the rocket launcher. You need to. That's a momentary button press, or rather, not a momentary button press. The remote detonate is a momentary press, where you just hit it once to detonate the rocket, whereas something like there, with the precision bolt or the lock-on, you have to hold that button down for a second to get its use. So whatever your mod key is, make sure it's something that you can both move and hold at the same time. So, you know, Shift for me, which would also probably work on a WASD setup if you're comfortable with that hand position. It might work there as well, but that's a good key for me since it allows me to move and use the key at the same time without running into any trouble. There is a quad damage in this fight, which I really don't make use of, which is kind of silly. It really makes this a lot easier. I don't know why. Sometimes I just I have this weird thing in my brain where I want to save the power-ups. I think because I've gotten more used to playing the game in its later stages, where it's often, you know, a good idea to kind of get through the first couple of waves of enemies before you. There's another wasted life that did not need to happen. That was very foolish. I just took a half second too long to get the sticky bomb into that dude, and now my quad damage is gone. So that was a total waste of that. And then took a hit directly to the face from that Arachnotron, which was not good either. Thankfully that health pack was waiting for me. But yeah, I think later in the game it's often good to kind of delay gratification there, wait until you've gone through a couple waves of enemies, and then, you know, grab those power-ups and, you know, pull out the big guns, as it were. For the more difficult bits of the encounter. But, you know, here I didn't need to do that, so I just kind of ended up wasting it, which is a shame, but whatever. What's an extra life? if you're being challenged at this game at all, more than likely at some point you're just going to run out of your extra lives, because you're going to run into a really difficult encounter that you're just like, oh no, I suck at this and I've died 6 times and now all my lives are gone. And that's cool because, you know, you'll figure it out. I have a tendency to lose multiple lives in a row because I make a poor tactical choice and get into like a bad spot that then I'm sort of like half panicked. I'm like, oh no, I can't get out of this now. Whoops. And end up losing, you know, multiple lives right after each other, which is something I've seen other people, you know, like YouTube playthroughs and stuff do as well. Alright, so we've polished off this level here. Exultia is done. I think I still missed a single pickup somewhere, but whatever. The main thing you really want to do is get those, not the collectibles so much as the combat rewards. So do all of those. And yeah, that's it for this time, and so we'll move on to the next level and some more talk about higher level Doom Eternal on the next episode. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.